from sense my money na akwa ba e de ba acrobatic small money is acrobatic de ekọ the ever na bring a bibia de fast forward the borrow and sim mo mo wonim trending issue a ekọ so e wo Ghana ha sei na me gidi ye say Ghana for nyina person mu current update a ekọ so concerning the suspension of the Chief Justice get to talk on the person me de nyina bremu e wo acrobatic so menim say Ghana for bebre na tapiku or mo twen eye insema koso eye update obi apese ohu say eye John Dramani Mahama obesa ken finally anase on sa ken anase obeja no na watua ne djuma so dofo mensa ka we fresh and current update we insema koso right from Supreme Court na meje ni nyina bre ewo acrobatic you say na be ya munyina behu niama koso say eye kwan na John Dramani Mahama for so suspend eye Chief Justice get to talk on no ne kwan so ano no anase ne kwan so therefore breaking news kese e na me de fi Supreme Court a me de bra mu nyina e wa acrobatic so therefore munya maso na mo di mechi na Egypt breaking news nyina mbra sia.
So would you say the president may have overstepped his powers by suspending the Chief Justice?
In terms of the suspension, if you look at Article 146 10 of the Constitution, it talks about a situation where the Council of State will have to advise the President whether the CJ was to be suspended pending the final determination of the matter or not. That advice, from what we are reading, was rendered, and the President decided to rely on that advice. But I need to point out that advice rendered by the Council of State is not binding on the President. And so my reading of the instances points comes to one conclusion that the President has taken a decision to suspend the Chief Justice. On the Council of State, but it's an institution that is so revered. It's an institution that is supposed to give counsel to the President when it comes to certain functions that he has to perform as the President. So in rendering an advice to the President on whether to suspend the CJ or not, I thought that they could be a bit cautious. Especially looking at the position of the CJ being the one holding the third arm of government. That provision the Constitution talks about all removals, all the judges, EC chairperson, auditor general, all those, so that they defend a special provision for them. And when it comes to removal, it's for all of them. But I think if you take the CJ out and you want to advise for her suspension, the Council of State needs to tread very cautiously. Because whatever decisions that they take have far-reaching consequences so far as judicial independence in Ghana is concerned. And that's why I've stated elsewhere that the decision of the Council of State is very poisonous, is very acidic, and it has future consequences that are so dire when it comes to Ghana's democracy.
Now, in cases like this, how would you describe the president's power, or would you say that he has an absolute discretion to suspend the Chief Justice, or issues like this should be governed by clear legal principles?
The Constitution stipulates that the Council of State will have to advise the President. But as I said, that advice is not binding on the President. And so the buck stops with the President. So the President decided to take a decision to suspend the Chief Justice. I think moving forward, we need to look at situations where that discretion will have to exercise properly. For example, if you are removing the High Court judge, and the High Court judge at the point in time said that you may want to suspend the High Court judge pending the outcome of the case, that's not serious like removing the Chief Justice, the head of a third arm of the government. If you look at our history, from 1967 to date, the only time that a CJ was removed from office was in the time of Kwame Nkrumah. Even under military regimes, where people thought that they were not, where the military rulers then were not ready to even look at rule of law, none of them. And I understand one of them happened in 1970. In fact, Mr. Rawlings, who has been the longest military ruler in Ghana since independence, under his regime, not once. But in the 1990s, Mr. Rawlings as the president, in fact, lost a lot of cases in the Supreme Court. He had appointed all the judges. He had appointed the Chief Justice. But this notwithstanding, he stood by his ground and said, because of judicial independence, we must move on. Fast forward to 2001, up to presently, where for the first time under this present constitution, we have a chief justice being suspended and then being referred to a committee to investigate further to see whether she have to be removed. That's a very big worry. We have to
Other for updates ni nyina na mede ni nyina bremu ewo Akroma TV so John Dramani Mahama ena disia de chese ni chemu aye hyehye a chese disia de John Dramani Mahama ohun bebi a onfa ne ti emfa because disia ne de ne hu aye hyehye pa me disia me ne mokasa ewo Akroma TV so no John Dramani Mahama menye sure say onankasa no Jubilee House no obetumi nya so because Ghana hase no obia ebo ne chipa dendenden because niama oye no within 4 months we dey anohye and no current update course concerning the suspension of the Chief Justice no get to token na me so be ni nyina bre odo for mo man ko na yentu ansem no sisia im no sisia
very careful, especially if you take legality out and you look at the political side of it. It does not give a very good signal to the future of our country's democracy.
So can the Chief Justice legally challenge this suspension?
I don't want to preempt it, but every order is something that can be challenged in court. To me, every order with the prima facie determination is not absolute, that I think if she decides to challenge it, she can challenge it. That's my view.
Well, so let's look at the individuals nominated to investigate the petition. Do you have absolute trust in these persons to do a fair job?
Out of the 5, I know 3. Justice Foreman, Justice Asiedu, and then the former Auditor General. The other 2, I do not know them. But it is my expectation that considering the seriousness of this matter and the future implications for our country's democracy, they should look at the petition carefully and come up with a decision that future generation can also defend. Because if you get it wrong this time, then I can assure the Ghanaian people that in the future our judiciary will be off the track. And so I know 3, 2 of them being Supreme Court judges. I know how they dispense justice. One of them being former Auditor General, and how he was able to go about his things. They have that kind of huge responsibility on them, and they must behave like judges. And if listeners they want to know, the judges, you know why they wear the wig? They wear the wig to cover their ears, meaning they do not take what happens outside come and then to have any bearing on their judgment. That is how they are supposed to behave. They should look at the evidence, evaluate the evidence, and give judgment according to their conscience and the evidence before them, having in mind the law governing such processes.
Right.
As I said, I'm just praying for them that they get it right. I'm praying for them that they get it right. But if they don't get it right, posterity will not forgive us.
Now, quickly before you go, the appointment of Justice Bafoboni as acting Chief Justice is based on his seniority on the Supreme Court. But did the President have any other options? And to what extent are the President's powers in appointing an acting Chief Justice?
The President has no power to appoint an acting Chief Justice. The law is clear on it. The Constitution is so clear on it. If the Chief Justice is unable to perform her function, the most senior Supreme Court judge takes her position as the acting Chief Justice. And so if you go to the Supreme Court now, the most senior after the Chief Justice is Justice Paul Bafoboni.
Right.
And so his assumption of office has nothing to do with the President, because the President has no power to appoint an acting Chief Justice.
Well, former Deputy Attorney General Alfred Yabua, thank you very much for your time.
My pleasure.
Other for Munina Motin seminar course na we breaking news case here so our Supreme Court concerning the suspension of Yankasi Chief Justice eye get to talk on na me speaking in abroad acromatics or the former room fi like na ma subscribe na ma share na ma hit notification bell so ma say na be abini abibia do pe content awo wonya ne tempa na wa hwe no ti ama ti si ade me de mu nyina be si a makra mu nyina me de mu nyam me da mu nyina ase